Welcome everyone. Today we have another new episode with our new guest, Mr. Banerjee, and he's from Switzerland. And he has a lot of experience, and he's basically working as a consultant, researchers, academicians, and most importantly, he working with the global community as a think tank. He is president of Swiss Impact Investment Associations, and he is I think working as an advisor of different association, government, and the policymaker. So hello, Mr. Banerjee, how are you?
Thank you very much. I'm quite very well. Thank you.
Yes. Sir, I know that you have a very good track record, and you have your organization playing very important role global arena. Can you please introduce yourself, your activities, and your research and your policy making activities with our audience?
Okay. Thank you very much for inviting me here. In very short, I'm born in India, grew up in Holland, and I have been living the last 10 years in Switzerland. So what I have been doing, I have been in board of mainly a lot of financial institutions in the past. And now I'm in the board of the Swiss Impact Investment Association, which is a platform for investors and projects. Next to that, I teach at the university and I advise a lot of major funds, including the sovereign funds and governments, couple of countries, heads of the countries like the Nordic countries, Switzerland, and a couple of CIS countries, that's the ex-Soviet Union countries, on macroeconomic policies and investment policies. So that's very short background of myself.
Yes, thank you, sir. So basically, we know that around the world we have a problem with like global warming and many more things. Hopefully, our audience will learn from your presentation. I think that we directly want to go to for your presentation. Hopefully, it will be a very informative session. And dear audience, if you have any questions, you can ask him directly. He will give us the answer after his session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Shall I start?
Yes, sir.
So the topic I chose today was why impact investment and why to convert. So this is a topic I have been talking since a very long time at the United Nations, at the World Economic Forum, Asian Leadership Coalition, and all that. So one of the organizations which I'm member of is the Climate Leadership Coalition, which is the biggest business group in Europe, focused on this topic mainly. I'll just give a short background. So having my childhood in India, I noticed I used to be very often in a city called Lucknow, but there was a river called Gomti, which was quite very wide river. Today, if you go there, it's a small, smelly, and sickening polluted canal. Business group in Europe focused on this topic mainly. Oh, now I hear myself echoing. So another example I can use is when we were at school, we learned that Cherrapunji is a small village, a small town in India, which has the maximum rainfall in the world. And the last I heard about it, there are trucks carrying water taking to that town because there's a shortage of drinking water. So this is what I do. I generally extrapolate and anticipate. And sometimes they don't come to very positive results. So how do we start from here? So there are two films which I like very much. I can quote from the film. One is the film I think many of you must have seen, which is called Deep Impact, where a meteor is coming to hit the Earth, and the United States president, played by Morgan Freeman, giving the final message of an impending extinction. That is one example. Other example is another old film called The Day Earth Stood Still, where I think it was John Cleese who played the role of a scientist who says that human civilization, when it stands at the precipice, it makes a decision against all odds. And never has the time been more interesting, and I would say never has the battle more glorious. So one side we see an existential possibilities, or existential issue, problem, and on the other side we see 8 billion extremely innovative people, intelligent, and technologies who are working to solve this problem. I don't claim to be an expert or a scientist on this topic. I look everything from the investment and the financial point of view and from macroeconomics. So in case many of you who don't know impact investment, Impact investments, as defined by Jane, are investments made with the intention to generate positive, measurable social and environmental impact, alongside, most importantly, financial return. So, just a short background of me, which I just mentioned. I'm a member of a couple of global think tanks like East West Institute, Climate Leadership Coalition. I speak at places. I have been involved with environmental projects and alternative energies since quite a very long time. One issue that I think countries like Malaysia, India, I mean the countries in the southern world, have to really think very well is the food production. So in case we are talking about 3%, 3-degree rise in temperature, because as you all know, in the Paris Agreement, we mentioned 2-degree rise, which is also not really giving a very clear example, because 2-degree rise is an average. Sometimes in the Arctic, a friend of mine who goes often to Arctic, where the temperature never went above zero for centuries, today is even going to plus 25, plus 30. So that does not really denote a 2-degree rise. In average, it's a 2-degree rise. So if you look at here, you can see that the southern world is going to suffer serious issues. When I'm talking about the deep red in color here, sorry, deep red, that means the agriculture production will be reduced by 50%. And you see how much part of the world is covered in that. Same is also valid for countries, major countries like India, Indonesia. They may not be minus 50, but they're also above 20, 35%. And this is the decrease in the food production. And we are not even forgetting the increase in the population, which adds on to this issue. So coming from the financial sector, where I come from, which is the largest economical sector, where I'm told is that somewhere I read a report that just 1% of our GDP is enough to solve all the SDGs. So question is, what are we then talking about? Which issue are we talking about? This is just one issue. Another issue that was asked is the sea level. By 2050, the sea level will push the cost of annual, the cost of the economics. It will also take away land for at least, as for the last report I read, of 300 million people. And this will be impacting the coastal cities. And this is also including China, where 30 million people's livelihood and inhabitants will be affected. And this also if you look into countries like Bangladesh, which is already severely being affected, or in United States, you have places like Louisiana, which is losing land. So this all adds up, and this is just the starting. And we are talking about 3-degree rise, which is not even much. This is what the CEO of the WWF said, that we are the first generation to know we are destroying our planet, and maybe the last one that can do anything about it. So as investors, we need to wake up. Our politicians may go around signing agreements like Paris Agreement, but as long as countries like China, which is producing or building coal plants all around Africa and Asia, or doing concrete project development, and concrete is one of the basic materials which has a massive CO2 emission, this strategy is not going to work. We are heading for 4 to 6 degrees. And just previously, I showed you what effect 3-degree has. So just imagine what is going to happen when the temperature goes up at 4 degrees to 5 degrees or 6 degrees. We are not only killing the world. I mean, another issue we are facing now is the global mass extinction of biodiversity. So we are also putting our the future of our children in grave danger. And for what reason? Just pure greed. So that's why my question was, why impact investment? That was the topic. Now this is a report which is, if you look into it, this is the peaking emission. So assuming, so we have crossed 2016, let's say we peak at 2020. Then the decline that by 2040, we have to bring down our CO2 emission seriously and very strongly. And if we go to 2025, then the decline becomes even harder. It is even much more we will have to do. And if you look at the carbon crunch, the mean budget which was set up of 600 gigaton for keeping the planet heating up to 2 degrees. And by the way, heating up to 2 degree itself, despite of what the Paris Agreement say, is number one. We have a big question mark whether we are going to keep it, because the whole world economy is moving towards far higher emission, but the second temperature change. Secondly, how are we going to compensate this? We don't have the resources, the money, or anything. So we are, as an investor, we are focusing on two things: climate change and food production. So this is not only creating a threat, but it's also creating the greatest opportunity. This is just let me first start with explaining a couple of these abbreviations. So AFOLU means agriculture, forestry, and other land use, and the BECCS means bioenergy with carbon capture storage. So these are the four possibilities we have available. The fossil fuel goes down by 2060. The the agriculture and forestry carbon being produced goes down, and last of all, the bioenergy and the carbon capture technologies go up. So these are the two possibilities, P1 and P2, which is the most likely. We also have P3, where we increase the carbon capture severely, very strongly, and also P4, where we increase it so much that we bring down the whole CO2 level worldwide. Unfortunately, if you can see, only option 1 and 2 are possible, not option 3 and 4, because this will need so much land requirement. And at this moment, we do not have any kind of integrated large-scale carbon capture technologies and carbon capture storage solutions available. So we have to stick to 1 or 2. 2 is the difference between 1 and 2 mainly is that in 2 we are using carbon capture solutions. In any case, doesn't matter which one we take, in any case, above 90% of our solutions have to be on emission reduction. We cannot keep on depending on saying that, oh, someday, one day we will have the technology which will capture the carbon from the atmosphere. Because even though we may have such a technology, it is completely unrealistic to apply it worldwide globally. Unfortunately, the atmosphere, we have only one Earth and one atmosphere. So it doesn't matter whether I live in Switzerland and you live in Malaysia or whatever. We share the same atmosphere. So we cannot globally reduce the CO2 except we have to work at carbon at emission reduction. So where it should work together is basically in the 2, so in the option 2, which is the best, because we add or complement the carbon sink, the technologies, the solutions, together with reducing the emission. This is, for one example, this is by company Neste, which created this is just an example of opportunities this is creating for technologies and for businesses. This is a small case of using a renewable fuel, which reduced the global climate emission by 8.3 million tons, which is equal. In fact, it is more than the amount of cars, the carbon emitted by cars in the city of London. This is just a small example. Another very good example where we personally are involved with is IPS in Australia. It's a kind of grass which was created by the university in Netherlands. This grass produces, it grows 3 meters every 3 months, and it grows the whole year round. And it produces protein, which is good for human consumption. So because you know that slowly, we also, one of the points where we have to seriously consider is decreasing to be able to feed the billions of people who are going to soon come. I think our population is going to soon is going to reach around 10 billion. The only way to feed them is to find plant protein, because animal protein, we are running out of it, added to the disaster we have caused with the environment. And this grass produces protein which is good for human consumption. And it keeps on growing 3 meters every 3 months. So here we invested. And another thing about this grass is that it also creates energy. You can use it as pellets. And thirdly, this grass captures carbon from the atmosphere. So this is a multi-purpose grass. This is just a very good example with the opportunity it is giving to produce this kind of technologies, opportunities to fight the climate change. And not only that, but to also increase the food production. And I can very well imagine that this grass will also work perfect in Malaysia, because this grass, to my knowledge, needs an average temperature of 20 degree plus the year round. Another example is this green tech portfolio we are very much involved with. If you look at the performance of this portfolio, it has been performing far, far better than the market. Even during the Corona time, it has outperformed every market. And this fund, this is just a pure fund. It is investing in green technology. This is just an example of the opportunities being created with the carbon change and with the climate change issues. So we are using funds, we are using finance to do something positive, and not only do positive, but make real positive change. The thirdly, which is the ESPO. So this was also from CLC, Climate Leadership Coalition. A couple of the partners of CLC or the board members, they created this geothermal energy center at ESPO. This is a small town in the north of Helsinki in Finland. They are taking energy out of the earth, I think around 8 or 12 kilometers below. And they're circulating the energy. They're using this energy to heat and warm part of the whole town. And through the winter, and in the summer, they're circulating it back. So they're cooling the houses and bringing the heat back to the center of the earth. So under the ground, the rocks are not permanently losing their temperature, but the temperature is being circulated. And this is far more reliable than solar and wind energy, because it is not subject to short-term fluctuation. And in this case, you can also control the energy production as per your demand. So you just take out exactly what you need. So if your demand is higher, you take out more. If your demand is lower, you take out less, which is not the key case of, for example, solar or wind energy. Now we are coming to the impact investment. It's not small anymore. It's quite very big. At this moment, despite of the COVID, we have crossed by July this year more than 750 billion, and it is supposed to cross 1 trillion at the end of this year, and 25 by 2025 as per the McKinsey report. But if you look at the total global asset, it is still just 0.68%. But it is the fastest growing asset at this moment, because it is cross sector. It is covering all the sectors you can imagine. It can be in agriculture, it can be alternative energy, it can be food production. It just goes on and on and on. So now, this is a very good saying I find from the French minister, where he said, finance will be green or it won't exist in the future. Among the risk, when we are talking about risk as an investor, we are talking about liabilities also. So I think many of you know that I think around November 26, 2018, a group of 28 banks with a combined asset of around, I think, $17 trillion came to to the United Nations, and to make an effort to make lenders more accountable for the impact of the business on the environment and on the society. Businesses and environments, now investors are being held now today financially responsible for damages caused by them, even though it may be outside of their border. So even living in Switzerland, if our investment in India or Malaysia or something causes a damage, we are to be held liable for that. So in that case, it makes it very easy for every investor, whether impact investor or any other kind of investor, to pay real attention to where we are investing, and to look what are the internal processes of the investment. Second is the regulatory. So in Switzerland, already a law has been passed, which is called the Group Responsibility Initiative in, I think, 2016. This is about the protection of people and the environment. Not only it strengthens the respect of human rights and the environment, and above all, it obliges the Swiss companies to comply with internationally recognized human rights and the environmental standards. And they can even be held liable if the subsidiary companies violate the laws abroad. I just have to correct myself. It is an initiative. I have to check whether it's 100% it has been passed as a law or not yet. EU is also coming with new laws. That's the Green Deal, where CLC played a very, by CLC, I mean the Climate Leadership Coalition played a major role in writing the Green Deal. Also, EU institutions like the European Investment Bank, they have a very strict policies that are being implemented, which makes it mandatory for every investment they make to see that it complies with the Paris agreement. Otherwise, the investment will not be made. So these are the regulatory issues that we are going through. And then finally, we come to what kind of changes we are talking about. So we have decarbonization or recarbonizing industry, of course, price tax and financing changing, sustainable forestry, energy. Citizens, we also have programs where citizens can do little things in their life which makes a huge impact to the climate. New agriculture ways we are investing in, which is not only acting as a carbon sink, but is increasing the production on the other hand, and using less and less genetically modified or chemicals putting into the land. This can also mean bringing back or learning from a lot of ancient ways of agriculture, local agriculture. You are aware that this corona has impacted the supply chain quite severely. So many of the countries are now looking more and more into their local food production. And of course, IT. IT is a very, very big sector because IT can make a huge impact, and we focus on it, whether it's in Africa, whether in Asia, because supply management and other sectors, IT can make a huge difference. And fuel, of course, everybody is aware. For example, if you look at the the cargo ships, I'm not sure, but they produce like 28-25% of the global CO2 emission. And these are massive percentages. So we are seriously investing into energy sources, fuel sources, which are alternative to this. So yeah, this is where I end my presentation. If you have any questions on any of the things I said or mentioned or talked about, please feel free to contact me directly. I can reply to you. I can send you information, the reports, how these were made. Also, we always have our annual program. This year it's on 26-27 October. You can find a lot on our website. You can join. Yeah, so Sharif, I give it back to you then.
Thank you, sir. This is very interesting discussion. Even actually, this is a very impactful session for our audience. Uh, my major thing is that even in COVID-19 situation, we observe that Malaysia also looking for food security. Country like Malaysia, country like Singapore, they have to import around 80% of their food from outside. So yes, Malaysia has a lot of natural resources, and beside that, they are also making good policy for their food security and this kind of things. Even in our session, like many policymakers from Malaysian government and different university, they join and they said that their next challenges will be the food security and this kind of things. So, from Malaysian perspective, what's your analysis and what kind of things Malaysian can add in their food security systems and how they can go for more agro-based technology, more agro-based
I think
productions? What your
one of the
advice?
points which I have been talking since a very long time is the true valuation. Uh, we don't give true valuation to our products. For example, if you look into a kilo of meat, I don't know about the prices in Malaysia, but in Switzerland, it's nearly the same price as a kilo of vegetables. But it takes far less water and energy to produce that vegetable than the meat. So countries like Malaysia has to really reconsider. It has to strategically think that since it has a population which is growing and it has to have food to feed the population. And maybe today you're exporting a lot of it, but that's not the future. Soon we are one of the biggest issues we are going to have in the future. One of the biggest shortages, especially with the global warming, is the water. So that means the water is getting down. So I don't know where Malaysia is getting 80% of its food from. Assuming it is from around the region, you have a very big power next to you, that's China. China has far bigger problem than you have. And they will lay a claim on the food, and you will start losing your food base. So if I were Malaysia, I would seriously think about having a very clear strategy about how to increase my food development. And the solution does not lie, which we have learned in the last 30, 40 years. It does not lie in GMO or using artificial fertilizers and all that. We have to consider we have to think out of the box. And that's what I said, that we have now billions of people who are thinking very good. And I think Malaysia has a very old history in agriculture. So go back to your history and find out how did the people then did the farming. So you have to start thinking in policies. You have to start thinking in structure. But especially, I can talk about India. In India, you have very small farmers having very small lands. And we know that it's not working. Economically, it doesn't make sense. But then comes again the question of valuation, because we have subsidized petroleum, or we have subsidized some of the products wrongly, or we have subsidized meat so much, and we do not give valuation to the use of natural resources. We do not give valuation on the use of water. We do not give valuation to the use of land and soil. So the farmers, despite of being one of the most essential producer of the world, are committing suicide or dying of hunger and poverty. This really makes no sense, because we are not giving valuation. We are not giving them the true value. And that is where, if you start giving the true value to your food and production, it will change. The farmers will be more innovative. They will be more productive. And we know we have the technologies available. Like I just showed you one example of the green, the grass being grown in Australia and all that. There's enough innovation, enough solutions. And that's the tragedy of today's world. All these problems, we have enough solutions available. We just need the motivation to apply these solutions and to divert funds and investments to these solutions. But Malaysia, if I were the government or the policymaker of Malaysia, I would seriously think about increasing food production at home.
Yes.
and cutting down export.
Yes, this is very good advice. Beside that, like few of the research organization and NGO from Singapore, they also joined this World Talent Economy Forum, and they said that Singapore government also trying to produce like lab grown food and different kind of like
Yeah.
agricultural things. They also trying to do. What do you think? Is it the real solution for a country like Singapore?
Yes, no, because the thing is, the problem is so big that there is not one concrete solutions. We have to work with small solutions which can be integrated together. You also have now vertical farming. You have urban farming. I'm not so aware of Singapore, but I'm very well aware of Hong Kong. Hong Kong has similar problem. It has massive shortage of land, but huge. It needs a lot of food because Hong Kong is an extremely highly densely populated country. I think they import nearly all their food from mainland and all that. But now the government has become very smart. They have allocated certain parts of lands, not only in Hong Kong, but also in the region just outside of Hong Kong with the China mainland, which has purely been for experimental agricultural products. So you have to bring agriculture near. And yes, you have to apply the solutions. Singapore is applying the solutions in many places. In Germany is being applied, like I mentioned, urban farming, vertical vertical farming, rooftop farming. But these are small parts. Everybody has to play their role. There's
Yes.
not one solution.
Yes. Beside that, like supply chain, even if, example, in South Asia, we observe that uh, uh, like the farmer, they produce their agro-based productions and everything, and then because of supply chain, they do not get the real values of their productions. So
Yeah.
even in COVID-19 situation, we observe that supply chain is a very big problem for every industry, even in Asia, not only in Asia Pacific, even South Asia, it's a very big problem. So, like how we can fix it, how we can solve it, what your advice? Like, even do you think that we have enough resources to handle this kind of supply chains and technology? Yeah.
This is this is a very good solution, because one of the projects we do is in India. India has a huge problem with this, because on one hand, India is an extremely big country, and I don't know the exact numbers, but I heard somewhere it's like 60 to 65% of agriculture production goes wasted because of the issues with the storage, issues of the logistics, issues with the transport. Because with food, the problem is it has to be transported fresh. Food has a very short expiry date. Or you use refrigerated transport, which is on the other hand so expensive that people can't afford it. So yes, you have to work on different aspects. You have to work on the logistics to make it as simple and as easy for the farmers to be able to bring their products to the consumer, because we are talking about the whole line. That's where the IT plays a very strong role, because there's too many middlemen in today's world, especially in countries like India. I don't know about Malaysia, but in India, yes. When a farmer sells, till the time the food reaches your plate, it has crossed so many people and the prices have been added. The farmer gets nearly nothing. You pay a lot of money, and 60% of the food goes down the day waste. China, I was reading recently a report. China also has a massive problem with food wastage. So I think you have to work at different angles. One side, reduce the food wastage severely. Second, try to bring the food production and the food consumption as near to each other as possible. So make kind of green belts around the cities, so that these green belts can provide food to the city, and not that the one part of Malaysia the food is produced and it has to be brought to the other part. Thirdly, try to propagate local foods, local vegetables. People today, we are too used to having apples. I mean, I can speak in Switzerland. Apples brought from Italy and orange brought from Spain. It's not working, because the amount you're spending on the fuel production of the trucks or the planes which are carrying this food is just adding to the CO2 emission. So try to build your food production as near to the consumer as possible. And where it is certainly not possible, if, for example, if Malaysia is also a very spread out country where population is concentrated on one end, and the food production is on the other end, then try to make your supply, your logistics, as efficient as possible. That's the only advice I can give. But try to cut down your food import, cut it down.
Yes, yes, and specifically, I just want to share that in COVID-19 situation, I try to observe the global arena and try to discuss with different policymakers and different countries, and I find that Malaysian government for the supply chains, managing the price. They're playing a very good role. Even I think the Prime Minister of Malaysia, even in COVID situations, here it's a king of Malaysia. In the COVID situation, they were in the food shop, supermarkets, and everywhere trying to controlling the price and managing proper supplies and everything. And they aware to the people that don't worry, don't be panics. We have available food and everything.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the good signs if I compare to the other South Asian countries and other things that they can learn from Malaysia, that how politicians play very good roles in this pandemic situation. Even if you observe this COVID-19 situations, I think yes, every life is important, but compared to other countries, I think 125 people died in Malaysia, and I think around more than 9,000 people affected by COVID-19. So I want to say, with their healthcare of system, they are trying to give very good support to their local community. So I want to move to the South Asia and this part. Specifically, you said for the global warming, country like Bangladesh will be highly affected and this kind of things.
They
Even
are already affected. They are very
oh, okay.
severely affected. Yeah,
But
it's
they
not.
are politicians, and they are not actually come up with this things that we are highly affected by the climate change. Even we also invite many policymakers and the politicians even from Bangladesh in this World Talent Economy Forum. I think you recognize this, but their politician I do not know. Maybe.
No, no, but I have a very different experience because I was speaking, I think, in 2016 or something at the United Nations. The Prime Minister of Bangladesh was there. They are extremely worried, and they are because they have already. It's not only about losing land; it is about desalination. So that means every year when they have this ocean water coming in and going out, it leaves so much salt behind that it completely kills all agriculture, and it's not even possible to grow any food there anymore. Uh, this was 2017 or 18, I'm not sure anymore. There was a unit, a kind of climate crisis unit set up within the United Nations, and Bangladesh was the chairperson of it, the first chairperson, because they are the most impacted. Secondly, is also the island of, I forgot the name, Toga. They are they're going to disappear.
If
They
even
have already
now, I think
lost.
Bangladesh, India, they have flat. What you are saying, yes, they
Yeah.
have a flat and this kind of things. But my question is that still, country like Bangladesh, they are highly affected by global warming. But still, why they go for coal-based power plants and different kind of industrializations, which is not actually good for Bangladesh environment. What the strategy? What the solution country like Bangladesh has? What your advice for them? I'm sure World Talent Economy Forum, we have many available person. They already joined. Definitely, they will get your guidelines and these things. Yeah.
So one of the issue we have with the global warming is that it's global. So everybody's affected, whether it's Bangladesh or whether United States, whether rich countries like Netherlands, we are all affected. But unfortunately, the consequences are far harsher. Like I showed also in my presentation about the food production, is far harsher on the southern hemisphere. The with your drying up of the water level and things like that, drying up of rivers, reduction of water, the consequences are far higher. In the northern hemisphere, in fact, somewhere you have temporarily positive consequences. I mean, looking at with very few variables. Problem with countries like Bangladesh is I mean, I don't want to blame Bangladesh. It's a problem for the whole world. We are addicted to fossil fuel. We are addicted to our way of life, which we have had in the last 70, 80 years, although we know that we cannot go on. The world is already changing. If you look in Germany, most of the German electricity production is now alternative. Same is happening in most of the West Europe. In California, in US, also the same is going on. Everywhere people are changing. Even China is going for green energy, electric cars. So it is changing. Only for richer countries, it is easier to change faster because they have the money and the resources available to make the change, the transformation easier for the people than for poor countries. So it is really, really hard because they do not have the resources. And that is where the poor countries or the developing countries need the resources, the knowledge, and the technology from the developed countries. And that's where I think we have one of these biggest discussion which went during also the Paris Agreement signing. And it also happened with the ratification of the Paris Agreement where India, China, they made a big hassle about it. That the richer nations should support the poorer nation in this way to make the transformation. But the transformation has to be done because otherwise the scenario is very gloomy. And Bangladesh is, as far as I know, the prime minister, because I have spoken to her a couple of times, she is very, very well aware. And also, I forgot the name of their environmental minister, is also extremely very well aware of the problems they are facing. Only they lack resources to do much about it. Plus, like I mentioned, it's a global warming. So even if Bangladesh tomorrow becomes a completely green and perfectly clean country with neutral or negative CO2 emission, they have the idea that, yeah, but still the CO2 emission of China and everything will completely overwhelm them, because the CO2 emission of China, in fact, has even gone up despite of whatever they say. So that's the thing. That's why we have to look at it globally.
No, still, Bangladesh has even. I understand that Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, she communicate with you and you discuss together. But still, Bangladesh has coal projects. Still, they have something which is against the norms, against the activities. But my question is that how actually developed nation, like you are from Switzerland and you have a collaboration in many European countries, even USA. So how actually developed nations, because a country like Bangladesh and this kind of country, even Maldives, I think they are also under the global warming situations, and even Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
So how actually developed country helping investing on the green technology and this kind of things to this country. And I want to know the real scenario of South Asia, as you are expert also in South Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not expert. I just have a little bit of experience here and there. No, the problem is it's not happening very much, because there has a lot of capital has been promised and committed and everything, but in reality, it's quite disappointing. The richer nation have not done. They have not played their role yet. So a lot has to happen still. And the funds, as far as I'm aware, a lot of funds are available, but then, like I mentioned, then it's the lack of the motivation, the lack of the projects. So, but in reality, what you say is true. There's not much has happened since the signing of the Paris Agreement, and especially now because the United States withdrew from the Paris Agreement, which took a major player and contributor of the Paris Agreement out of the agreement, which makes the situation even more difficult. And the only people who can fill in the gap left behind by United States is European Union and China. China, I think, has no intentions. European Union has too many problems of its own at this moment, especially with the COVID, which has wiped out quite a lot of our assets here, to really seriously consider. But you're completely correct. There is no way out. The Northern Hemisphere has to contribute and support in the transformation of the Southern Hemisphere. And that's where we all have to work together.
Yes, but I have other perception. I have different perception. I want to share with you. I do not know.
Yeah.
You can agree or you do not agree, but you can give me solution because of my experience. I saw even South Asia, even in Asia Pacific. Actually, there are many big now. They have many good corporations. Those who have enough money in their hand. But example, you are policymaker and you have like good relations with country like Bangladesh or India. And but I want to ask you, like, what the contribution of their local economy. Even I know that they in their local ecosystem they have many rich corporation, those who have enough money. Like if, like example, policymakers and the scientists like you and your organization, if you motivate the local corporation, local organization. Even I know that in a country like India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, they have many corporations, those who are making billions of dollars. Even country like Bangladesh, they have many local corporations, those who are making billions of dollars. Let's say from garments industry, from education, from healthcare, and different sectors. Have you ever tried as a policymaker, or you do any research that how we can utilize local financing, or we motivate local business organization to invest on green technology and get some good result? Do you, like, your organization has this kind of research or this kind of initiative before?
Not really, because what you're saying is correct. I think one place we have to work together is the awareness that people have to become aware of the problems and the situation we are facing, especially because we are facing an existential situation. What I notice in countries like India, I have not been to Malaysia, so I'm not sure about it, is that the awareness is rising. It's rising very fast. Even people in the farms in the villages, they are seeing the difference of what was there 20 years ago and what is today, whether it is disappearance of river, whether it is disappearance of rainfall or increase of flood. So people are seeing Bangladesh also, so awareness is growing. Only the elite, the people you mentioned, the top percentage who manage the resources or who have the awareness still has to grow. And secondly, another issue which we face very often is that people understand, people are aware, but it's a force of habit. So when I'm sitting in the evening, I may be the chairman of the richest or the biggest company of India or whatever. In this evening, when I'm sitting with you, I'll tell you, yes, what you're saying is true. We are facing an existential crisis. I really worry about my children. I worry about our grandchildren, whatever. But tomorrow morning, when I'm in my office, sitting in my office, then I'm doing exactly the same what I have been doing the last so many years. So this is a force of habit, and this has to change. There are people, I'm not saying that there are people not changing, there are really people who are changing, and those who are changing are really, in fact, they're using they are doing it very good also business wise. If you look at the new businesses that have come out from this, look, for example, Tesla. Nobody knew Tesla a decade ago. Today is one of the biggest companies, or other companies which are really focusing on this niche of climate change or something. Also in agriculture sector, I'm not again it's the same story. I'm not sure about Malaysia, but in India I know that people are really now aware of that when they buy a banana or when they buy an apple, whether it is made using artificial fertilizers or whether it is made naturally, and people have the money to spend. If you tell them that this banana is clean, they will. Or same with the milk. In India, milk, I don't know the exact percentage, but it's an absolutely big percentage. It's either full of toxics or it's full of antibiotics. And people are now really getting aware, especially the middle class, because the middle class has expanded very strongly in India the last few decades. They are very well aware of it, and they want to buy milk where no antibiotics is used. So these are, but it is still the awareness, and in the West, what we have is that the awareness is a bit stronger. There are many reasons. In the West, one advantage is that the education level, the qualification level is on average. No, I'm not talking about the university, I'm talking average. Even those who are cleaning the street have a certain basic education, which is not always the case in the Southern Hemisphere. But on the other hand, the Southern Hemisphere has a fantastic history and knowledge of the ancient, which we in the West do not have. One article I wrote few days back, I think, where I wrote that today we are talking about climate change and the West should participate or should pay for it. We seem to have forgotten one of the basic facts that the West is the initiator of this. West promoted, propagated fossil fuel based lifestyle, fossil fuel based, which now the South is suffering from. So we cannot decline or withdraw from saying that this is not our problem. By West, I mean the Nordic Hemisphere. They have to support. And with knowledge, with technology, with innovation, and it is there. I'm not saying that this is a problem where we have no solution. That is completely not the case. This is a problem where we have extremely lot of solutions and we can solve it. It's a question from the southern part to say that yes, we have a problem, come and help us, and from the northern part, it is to give the solution, and it's give and take from both sides.
Yes,
We
yes.
live on only one planet.
Yes, yes, yes. This is actually really, really like interesting solution you are sharing with us. Beside that, even in Asia Pacific, Yes, Malaysia, even for their green technology, they are trying to adjust with the green technology and agricultural policy. They are developing. Their government give too much of subsidy and lot of support to the local ecosystem. But I'm aware of the South Asian healthcare system. In COVID-19 situation, actually, it's opened up the situation that it's actually very bad situation healthcare system in South Asia. Even I don't know what you want to say about India, but India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and other country, they cannot handle the COVID situation properly. Even sometimes
Yeah.
they say that we have a very good GDP, we have a very good amount of income, and they're utilizing the private hospital and many more things. But issue is that healthcare system is it's really really poor in South Asia.
Yeah.
What do you think? What your advice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think uh, so. It's a very complicated issue situation. So it's not only the infrastructure of the healthcare system. It's also, sorry to say, but it's also a little bit about culture. So in Switzerland, for example, no laws, nothing. It was not said from one day to another that you're not allowed to get out of the house or nothing. It was just said that it would be advisory for people to keep 2 meters distance from each other. It's advisory to use masks. It was just voluntary because Switzerland initially, I'm sure you're aware, was very, very badly hit. It was expanding because it's an open country. We have open border. People from Italy, France, Germany, they're all constantly traveling through, and Switzerland was flooded with COVID. So these rules were kind of mentioned and everywhere, and people followed it. Just voluntary. There was no fines. There was no police going around beating beating up people because they were not following it. People follow the rules. Uh, I have seen so much jokes or funny cartoons in India. People were not following the rules. They still aren't. So of course, on one side, it is the health system. I mean, I don't want to be arrogant, but Switzerland does have one of the world's best health system in the world, and maybe the world's best health system. But it's also about the spread of it. And in India, I mean, I like Prime Minister Modi very much, but whatever he does was wrong. If he would have said life should go on as usual, everybody should do whatever they are doing, it was wrong decision. And if he said, okay, close down everything, everybody stays at home, nobody gets out, is also a wrong situation. Both have consequences, pros and cons. And this is something I think we will be debating many, many years in the future about the impact of it. So how realistic or how economically valid are the steps? Because different countries took different measures. India took different measure. I'm not sure about Malaysia, but Hong Kong I know took very different measure. Hong Kong, in fact, did it very well because Hong Kong had past experience with SARS and they had learned from that experience. So the moment they even heard of it, because the governor is an old friend, and the moment they heard about it, they immediately shut down all borders with China mainland. That saved them, and they are very strict with this. So Hong Kong did very well. I think Singapore also did quite very well. Um, India not. Malaysia, I don't know, but if I'm listening to you correctly, I think Malaysia also did very well. So the countries which acted very fast in closing border with China, they did well. Countries which they did not, like Italy, till the last moment kept its border open to Chinese, especially to Milan. Italy was a kind of disaster scenario of Europe. I mean, it's you can Google and you can follow all the information what happened in Italy. It was a real disaster even today, and I think the next 10, 20 years we will. And this is just the loss of the human life. On the other side, we are talking about the loss of the economics, which will take I don't know. It wiped out a massive, massive percentage of our GDP. By our, I mean of European Union. So and they had to put forward, I think, something like now 900 billion or some mega huge number to compensate for the economical damage to these countries like Italy. And which is the negative side of it, because this money is being taken out of the money which was put forward or put aside for climate change related issues. So this is what I call the knee-jerk reaction.
Mhm.
would be it.
One thing you come up, and this is very, very good thing, that this is culture. And I want to discuss more things on culture, because even if we focus on the South Asian culture, but I know that their culture is something like that. The elite group of people, or the businessman, or the business organizations, they make a huge amount of money because they have a very big market, and they put their money in the outside the countries. Even I can give you an example, like one of the organization, I think chairman, and he has, I think, 14 different financial organization and bank. I think they have a billions of dollar industry, but they died because of they do not get even ventilator in these pandemic situations. This is the cultures of there, that if I have any kind of problem, I directly go to Singapore, or I will go to UK, or I will go to New York, and I do not have any problems. But this is, as you are working with this investment and investment culture, why the businessman, an elite group of peoples, country like Bangladesh, Pakistan, even I want to say about India, why don't they invest their money for healthcare system, for good education system, or other things? On the other hand, I don't know. I do not agree with their GDP and GDP growth and other things. What do you think? Do you don't think that they have economical cultural problem? Even in the World Talent Economy Forum, many people come, and many doctor come. They say that they have a corruptions, and for this reason, many people actually affected. What do you think? The country like South Asia, they only think that someone come from first world and they give us money, and then we will do it, or we have money, we have our proper market and everything, we will make something for us. What will be the proper culture for economical aspect?
I think it's a very good question. Only I don't think I'm the right person to answer it. I think the issue with it's not only limited to Southeast Asia. One of the reason why the world reacted the way it reacted to Corona or to COVID, than it does to other situation like climate change, is because this problem hit everyone. Climate change hits generally the poor people, the middle class, lower middle class, the southern hemisphere, they get hit. Northern hemisphere, not yet so much. The rich people, like you mentioned, when they have problem, they go on vacation to Switzerland, to Germany, whatever. But COVID hit them where it doesn't matter. COVID makes no difference whether you're rich or poor, it hits you. This problem did not only happen in India or southern Asian countries, also happened. I was reading somewhere a report like in Russia, that when the corona started spreading, a lot of Russian billionaires were buying up all the ventilators, not for the country, not for the society or people, but for themselves, for their own home. Although they didn't know what it is going to do or what's going to happen. So this is this extreme short-term thinking. Uh, and and yes, what you're saying is correct, that the elites in the southern hemisphere should and could do better. And I completely agree with you. I'm also extremely frustrated about it, that whenever we talk about impact investment or social investments or environmental, we really have to have long discussions with the elites, far more than with the elites here, because somehow, uh, please don't take me wrong. India has a lot of major environmental investors. India has a lot of major social investors. You have Tatas. They do amazing work. But still, what you say is correct, that it's a very small group of the total big group of elites, because India, I have no idea, but has too many billionaires and everything. But if you look at them, how much really they are doing for the education, investment in education, investment there, I think, unfortunately, you are correct. There is some kind of uh, that they expect that people from from Netherlands or England would come and give them the help and education and invest in their schools, then they're doing it themselves. And this is something that it's culture would be a strong word, because I think if you look at the ancient times, the culture of these countries was far more advanced than where West is. Do you know the film My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
No,
It's a
okay.
it's an old Greek, it's American Hollywood film. It's a comedy film where this Greek guy goes and always says that when we had in Greece, when we had universities and civilizations, you guys were still hanging from the trees. I mean, so if you look at the cultural development or the advance that Southern Asia had, by Southern Asia, and not Southern Asia, I mean the Southern Hemisphere, whether it's in Indonesia, India, Japan, Malaysia, West is very new. West doesn't have it, but somehow the government policies or somehow the mentality, and I think history has a lot to do with it, especially the history of last century. West is what it is today has a lot to do with the Second World War, for example. The West has learned a lot from Second World War. That whenever there's a massive difference between people, between the rich and the poor, when there is a lot of poverty, when there's a lot of financial issues, economical issues, you get into severe destructive mode. And I think these are the lessons West has learned that you have to invest in education, you have to invest in social structures, you have to invest in social security. This, I sincerely think that these are the learnings from the Second World War, because West has suffered a lot in the Second World War. So countries like India has not faced that kind of destruction, and I sincerely hope it never will. But still, this is a lesson the West learned. And maybe that's why they invest so much in education, because they know what disaster lack of education can bring. And they invest so much on health and so much on social security, because they know what kind of issues poverty can create. So, yeah. I don't want to sound very gloomy, but
Yes.
and it's not true. Truly, culture would be the wrong word. Like I mentioned, the culture of South Asia is far more advanced than the West is, but I think it has also a lot to do with the recent history of the West.
Yes. My last question, that what will be the next 10 years of strategy, like these developing nations? What your advice? What's your guidelines? And definitely we're going to arrange more policy discussions. We will invite more local community, even from Malaysia, from Indonesia and Vietnam and Singapore, even South Asia, as much as we possible. Hopefully, you will do more contribute for World Talent Economic Forum, because we are trying. We are actually looking for right people. How you analyze and how your organization actually working. This is really. I'm really impressed, and I think our audience also impressed that. So you can do a lot of contributions, and you can even help the elite group of people, that how they should invest in their economy, or how they should collaborate with the local ecosystem. I think this is major problem. Country like India, even Bangladesh, even Pakistan. I think their major problem is not money. Their major problem is what I want to share, that culture. They have to invest. They do not think. They cannot think that okay, someone from Netherlands and come and they do all of the investment and we will. I do not think that South Asia have money related problem. They has money.
Exactly, it has enough resources. I think,
Yes.
of course, we can always come and share our knowledge, our expertise, our everything with you. But the motivation, I think it has to change from inside people. This is not only problem of Malaysia, India, it's also a problem in the West at this moment, that the political leaders or the elites, they think too much short term. They're not thinking long term. So people have to start thinking long term, because otherwise we are again heading towards another problem, massive problem. So we have to think long term and make policies according to that. We have to make policies which are long term. And that would mean we have to think about our food production. We have to think about our education. We have to think about the environmental crisis we are facing. So we have to think about a lot of things and make policies accordingly, not think short term. I think one of the issues in Malaysia is that deforestation, too much deforestation going on. So seriously look into forest not as a kind of source of wood, but look at it as a source of resource, because forestry, if properly used, is a massive, massive source of resource which will generate far more money than cutting down trees and selling the wood. So, and there we can teach a lot, because CLC, most of our members are based out of Finland, and Finland is like the leading country in the field of forestry and forestry engineering. So we can always come and show the way and tell how to do it. But it's look at the real valuation. Cutting down a tree is a very, very extremely very short-term thinking. So these are the points where I think countries like Malaysia, India, they all have to look into it. And reforestation also is not the answer, like just planting, because then you're making a homogeneous thing. A true forest is not homogeneous. So I think with policies, it has to be motivation, policies, and awareness into the elites, the financial elites and the political elites. They have to become aware of what they can do with their resources for their own country, and not always look towards others to come and
Exactly.
give.
Exactly. But for Malaysia, but I want to be neutral. Like this COVID situation, how Malaysian government, Malaysian healthcare system, Malaysian local business organizations, how they play in this ecosystem. I want to say this is a very good example. Even you can do research, especially COVID situation. They actually really playing very good role, especially their researcher, their doctor, their frontliner. But hopefully, if you have more deep research on this deforestations and the green technology, even what I observe, even I attend different kind of summit and arrange, I saw that Malaysian government has keen interest for green technology. They are implementing solar energy and this kind of things. So even I think they have available land. This is also good point for Malaysia. They can utilize it. But definitely, if we at any point we have our research organization, Asia Research and Development Institute, as well as we have our policy discussion. In the future, we will invite you more, and hopefully you will enlighten us. And definitely we arrange. I saw that you arrange a very interesting summit and very big summit. Hopefully next time you can arrange in Asia Pacific
Yeah.
this kind of investment summit.
Yeah, our summits are not very big. It has maximum 200 or 400 people, but
Yes, yes.
it's the biggest ultra high network individuals and funds. So it's the how do you call it, the financial centers, they come.
Yes,
So
yes,
yeah,
yes. So yes, yes. Thank you. It's actually very nice discussions, and definitely World Talent
most
Economic
welcome.
Forum. We will arrange more a discussion like this, and definitely it will be good discussion. Maybe we can exchange our views and other things. Even from Malaysian professors and the policymaker, I will invite them, and definitely. And
That would be
thank you.
perfect.
Yes, yes. Thank you. It's a really, really good discussion. And as much as possible, World Talent Economy Forums, we will explore these sessions, because by this, at least the global warming is a big issue. Many organizations, maybe they can understand that, okay, we should work together. And we
Yeah,
believe in global citizenship. Hopefully we can work together and we will learn more. Definitely, I want
exactly.
to learn more. Yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you very, very much. And thank
Thank
you
you.
for again inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye. Yes.